Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. George Thompson walked slowly through the Luxury and Elegance boutique, leaning on his polished wooden cane. His gray eyes scanned the perfectly folded shirts, his methodical mind appreciating order and precision. At 68, George had lived a life of quiet success, founder of a chain of luxury stores, philanthropist, and mentor to many young entrepreneurs. Yet today, to the outside world, he was just another customer. As soon as he entered, a young salesman with neatly styled hair and a haughty smile approached. "Good morning, sir, can I help you?" he said with a hint of sarcasm. George replied politely. "Yes, I'm looking for a white cotton shirt, something classic." The seller examined him from head to toe, his eyes casting a silent but cruel judgment. "Sir, you really should consider something more modern. Well, if you can still keep up with fashion at your age." A muffled laugh came from another employee behind the counter. George felt his heart sink. Every word, every gesture seemed designed to belittle him. He tried to smile politely, but the humiliation was palpable, burning his dignity like an invisible fire. He put down the shirt he was holding in his hands. "Thank you. I'll think about it." As he turned on his heel, several customers stared at him curiously, some with amusement. George felt a cold anger rising within him, but also a resolute calm. This situation, he thought, wouldn't last. The salespeople didn't know who they were dealing with. What they all didn't know was that George Thompson owned a business empire far larger than that shop could ever imagine. And in the hours that followed, their disdain would backfire in ways they could never have foreseen. That same evening, George Thompson settled into his leather armchair, a whiskey in hand, and reflected on the humiliation he had suffered earlier that day. The Luxury and Elegance boutique was just a small piece in the vast puzzle of his business empire, but the way he had been treated still burned in his mind. Beside her, her grandson, Ethan, 22, watched her with concern. "Grandpa, you don't look well. Do you want to talk about it?" he asked gently. George put down his glass, his gaze lost in the flame of the fireplace. "Ethan, it's time you understood something. No matter your age, no matter your experience, if people look down on you, they need to learn who you are. And I'm going to show them." Ethan frowned. "But, you're already the boss of so many businesses. Why does this little shop affect you so much?" George smiled slightly, a mixture of sadness and determination. "Because it's not the store, Ethan. It's the principle. It's the arrogance of those who think age and experience are worthless. I won't let myself be treated like that." During the night, George checked his contacts, made calls, and signed a few electronic documents. At 68, he didn't need time to act, he knew how to turn injustice into opportunity. His plan was simple but effective: officially buy back the shop and confront those who had scorned him, not with anger, but with authority and composure. Early in the morning, Ethan entered his grandfather's office and saw the spark in his eyes. "Grandpa, you look different. What have you planned?" George placed his hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Today, we will show them that experience and wisdom never disappear. Prepare yourself, the return of the despised begins now." The next morning, George Thompson entered the Luxury and Elegance boutique again. But this time, he walked straight and confidently, dressed in an elegant suit and accompanied by his assistant, a discreet young man carrying a briefcase. Each step resonated with authority. Behind the counter, the same arrogant salesman, Jake Miller, was arranging some folded shirts. As soon as he saw George, he gave a mocking smile. "Oh, there you are again, sir, George stopped, his gaze piercing. "Mr. Thompson," he replied calmly. "I am now the official owner of this shop." A shocked silence fell. The other employees, who had observed the scene from the back of the store, exchanged incredulous glances. Jake burst out laughing, thinking it was a joke. You're joking? You? The old man from yesterday who was complaining about a shirt?" George took a step towards him, his calm contrasting with the young salesman's growing panic. "No, Jake. Yesterday, you scorned and humiliated me in front of your colleagues and clients. Today, I'm giving you the opportunity to right that wrong, but under my direction." Jake felt his throat tighten. He suddenly realized the extent of his past arrogance. George, without raising his voice, commanded attention with his presence and authority. George turned to the other employees. "From today onwards, respect and courtesy towards every customer will not be an option, but an obligation. Those who do not adapt will find their place elsewhere." Some employees lowered their heads in shame. Others, more reluctant, began to murmur among themselves, realizing that the shop had just changed radically, not only in ownership, but in philosophy. George, still calm, concluded, "I'm not here to punish, but to correct. Arrogance and contempt come at a high price. And believe me, I know what I'm talking about." A wave of respect and fear swept through the store. The shop would never be the same again, and those who had laughed yesterday understood that their world had just been turned upside down in a matter of seconds. The shop was quiet, almost too quiet. George Thompson stood behind the counter, his hands clasped behind his back. Jake Miller, the arrogant young salesman, suddenly seemed tiny in the face of the imposing aura of the man he had scorned the day before. George breaks the silence. "Jake, yesterday you humiliated me in front of your colleagues and clients. You thought I was worthless, that my age and experience were insignificant." Jake lowered his eyes, unable to find an excuse. I didn't know that." George smiled slightly, but his gaze remained firm. "Exactly. You didn't know. And that's precisely the problem. You never know who's standing in front of you. Regardless of your opinion or prejudices, every person deserves respect and dignity." An employee, Sarah, spoke up timidly. "Mr. Thompson, we are sorry, we shouldn't have." George nodded, softening his expression slightly. "I am not here to punish. I am here to correct. You have a chance to redeem yourself, but only if you understand and apply this lesson. Arrogance and contempt destroy not only those who suffer them, but also those who practice them." He turned to all the employees. "From today onward, every customer will be treated with respect. Every mistake will be corrected through learning, not humiliation. Those who cannot follow this rule will find another job." "I'm not joking." Jake, ashamed but sincere, murmured, I understand, Mr. Thompson. I'm sorry. I promise to change." George nodded, satisfied with the sincerity in her voice. "So show it. Make this shop an example, not of what you are, but of what you can become." For the first time in years, George felt a profound sense of pride. He had not only restored his dignity, but he had also offered a chance of redemption to those who had underestimated him. The sun shone through the large windows, illuminating the shop and symbolizing a new beginning for everyone. The lesson was clear: respect and humility can transform even the most arrogant minds, and sometimes, the humblest among us can change the world in a single day. In the following weeks, the Luxury and Elegance boutique was completely transformed. Under George Thompson's leadership, every employee adopted a respectful and professional attitude. Customers immediately noticed the difference: genuine smiles, attentive advice, and impeccable service. Jake Miller, once arrogant, became one of the store's top salesmen. Every morning, he started his day by reminding his colleagues of the lesson George had taught him. Treat every customer as if they were the boss himself. You never know who you're dealing with. Sarah, who had timidly apologized the day of the confrontation, also blossomed. She suggested improvements to product presentation and staff training. Her initiative was immediately approved by George, who smiled as he saw his team transformed. One afternoon, George received a call from a business partner. "George, I've heard about your store. Your employees are exemplary. The concept could be replicated in all our branches." George put down the receiver and turned to Ethan, who was watching him with admiration. "You see, Ethan, true power doesn't just lie in money or power. It lies in how you inspire others and transform what seemed lost into opportunity. The store thrived, attracting loyal customers and new talent motivated by this culture of respect and excellence. And for George, this success had a special flavor. He was no longer just the official boss, he was a mentor and a symbol of wisdom and restored dignity. The arrogant young salesman who had scorned him the day before had become an example of redemption. George knew that life sometimes offered cruel lessons, but with patience, intelligence, and determination, even the most unjust contempt could be transformed into triumph. As the sun set over luxe and elegance, George smiled. His gaze drifted over the bustling boutique, filled with laughter, satisfied customers, and motivated young employees. He had proven that respect, humility, and wisdom were the true keys to success, and that sometimes, tomorrow could be brighter than any past.